What if the answers you've been searching for have been inside you all along? Welcome to Insights with Purpose, the power of inner wisdom. We're Hemali and Sheila, two friends on two continents, having the conversations that bring us closer to the truth of who we are. No scripts, just real talk. Pull up a seat.
Today, we're talking about the part nobody tells you is coming. Everything we walked through in the last few episodes, the healing, the surrender, the grief, all of it felt like the end. But every ending has another side. Something grows in the space that loss carved out. Sheila lost a relationship, a job, an apartment, daily access to her son. And what came after gave her back everything: herself, her voice, her mom, her husband, her connection to God. Himali spent 3 years in the in between, questioning everything, processing in silence, stuck in paralysis. If you're in the in between right now and can't see the other side, stay with us. By the end, you might discover that the emptiness was never empty, it was making room for the new. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Hemali.
How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Better, but hanging in there.
That's awesome. Can you believe we are at episode 12 now?
No,
Yeah.
really, I can't. It's like this whole thing is like, is this really even happening for real?
Yes.
Still.
And today we're going to talk about what comes after the ending. Let's talk about that, the little deaths that we all experience sometimes in every moment, and in that in between space. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a good way to think about this topic and start here because it'll really highlight what comes after all of those little deaths, like you
Yeah.
said. And I think what helps me frame this topic after talking about very heavy topics the last few weeks is the fact that I think of every day as a small death. The me who woke up yesterday no longer exists. The me who woke up this morning is not going to be the same one that wakes up tomorrow, because by practicing all those, by putting into practice the modalities and the tools that we use every day, we expand our ability to hold who we are and who we no longer are aligned to. So for me, it helps when I think about it in that way. I am not who I was a month ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. I know now I am definitely not who woke up yesterday morning, right? Because it kind of like takes the sting a little bit out of it. You know, if you're always waiting for the other shoe to fall and
Yeah.
the big tower moment to happen, is always like this tightness and constriction in the body, and you're not able to move into the flow and ease of life ever. But when you take that experience and you shift it into more like, oh, this is just a natural process that happens to me daily. You know, I am always shifting, changing, and expanding. And we can definitely start there. But let's
Yeah.
not gloss over all of the things that we've walked through personally for the last few years. I know it's, and we've talked about this a little bit, but the real crumblings of life, the jobs that disappeared, the inability to recall, the inability to provide for my kids, my son having to move back with his dad, experiencing life without my since I was 2 years old. All of those crumblings, all of those moments of tightness, of letting go, of now healing, of bringing awareness to that, have created the person that I am today. And in that space when it was happening, I didn't think about it like that. It's not like I was like, yes, this is just happening for me and there's a lesson. I didn't experience it like that. I missed my mom throughout my whole life. I missed her. I miss being able to enjoy Mother's Day and not feel like I was lacking. Going into presentations where it's Mother's Day and all the girls have their mom with them and I didn't have mine, you know? That empty, carved out space, that hole in my chest, wanting to be filled only with her. It wasn't spiritual then. It was a little girl mourning, questioning why she wasn't enough, deserving enough of having a mom. It was the time when my first marriage ended and I thought it was going to go forever. And I found myself questioning who I was, where I was moving into, my ability to provide. It was losing the job I worked 14 years to have. All of those moments were not experienced within the lens of the universe is working for me. That hadn't happened, right? It was pure struggle. It was deep blame, self-blame. Something must be wrong with me because all these things are happening to me, you know?
Yeah. I had not only got emotional, but goosebumps. And these are such harsh realities of life that people experience all the time. And how do you process these things? You carry these emotions with you throughout your life, and with those experiences, with those emotions, you react in your everyday, every moment interactions, and the triggers that pulls you back to that moments and those emotions. But as we were talking about the in between space, and whether, and I hear what you're saying, like, would you still experience the same thing? Would you want to change any of that and go back to that? I mean, there are some experiences, and I've been in a place like that. After you do so much of healing, I am sure most of us ask this question: would you change anything in your life? And I personally stood there and I have said to myself that there is not even a millisecond of things that I would change, because if that did not happen in my life, I wouldn't be who I am, what I'm doing, what I'm speaking about, what I stand for, all of it. I wouldn't be doing anything at this moment, what I'm doing. Yes, there may be regrets, and there are times where I've gone back to tell, a couple of my friends things that happened like 20 some years ago, but still went back and said, I'm really sorry for how I acted in that one instance. And even after that time, they remembered what I was talking about. And for them, it felt their emotions or their feelings were validated. They were grateful to hear that I was able to process that and go back to them and apologize for it. So I think that some of those moments, or all of it, are so important for your growth and expansion. And that also taught me to be in present moment and live without regrets, so that you can make more informed decisions to move forward, to really think through the decisions and choices that you make, how you show up for others and for yourself.
Yeah, for me, that's a loaded question, right?
Yeah.
You're talking, if we want to chronologically piece out my life up until the moment of awakening, a little girl who grew up without her mom present, a little girl who was sexually molested when she was 8 years old, a little girl who experienced her dad, who up until that point was the love of her life, remarry and experience her whole life and the entire family dynamic shift. Then 3 years later, moving to the US with no language. I knew zero English. And all of these threshold moments kept stacking up. It was a real difficult entry into the school system without knowing the language or how things function and worked. It was still difficult to navigate life outside of the embrace of my grandmother, who I grew up with up until my dad remarried. And there was a lot of loss. I would also be in a position of, again, experiencing a sexual assault when I was 15, then having my boyfriend passed again before the age of 16. So these were really big things. It wasn't a moment where there was a lapse of not knowing how to move around the world. There was a constant shifting and revolving doors of patterns, behavior, people, circumstances. And after my awakening, after experiencing that near death experience and having Joshua bring me back, it was a moment of, I will no longer be silent. I left the hospital, and the next day, I found a voice that I never had before. My goal in life up until that point was to please the people around me so that I would have love, because I had been abandoned since the age of 2. So those big, deep injuries didn't happen within the scope of spirituality, right? It was my deep search for where is God when I was 8 years old. Where is God? Going church to church with my uncle, trying to figure out, is there a light here? What am I doing in this planet? It's been one thing after the other, and I was 8. Okay, so not having the tools, the words, the people in front of me to help me navigate, to help me understand, to validate my feelings, to have to constantly adapt to a changing environment, circumstance, whatever, you name it. That life up until my awakening and losing everything again, and my son having to go back and live with his father, and finding myself starting from zero again, I would not change anything. I could not change anything, because it would derail who my son now is, who my daughter now is. Because I wouldn't be the same parent for them. I wouldn't be able to sustain, validate, and encourage the experience they've been able to have, because I was their mom in the way that I was their mom. I would never, ever want to risk going back and replaying it. For what?
Yeah.
It's not worth it. This person, this Sheila, who a day after almost being dead found her voice, has only gotten stronger. And I may not always listen to my guides, but I always know I have them with me. I may not always be able to expand outward to observe the lesson, but I eventually do. And that's the growth. And all of the things that happened to that little girl that fractured her have come back home to me, because I can hold her. I can only hold her because of all that happened. So why? How would I
Yeah.
change that? So absolutely not. I wear her wounds proudly. I hold her proudly, because if she wasn't held by anybody else, I get to hold her. My little self who walked through life wondering why she was being left behind. That is what the death experience gave me, that near death experience. Realizing that through all the moments of my life, Jesus was the one holding me. I was never walking alone, even though it felt very much like it. It's impossible to think that I would go back and change anything out of that life.
Yeah, I totally agree. Amount of things that we had to experience and learn and to expand into these powerful beings that we are. And we were already that. It's just we needed to come back to that, come back to our home, come back to ourselves. And the journey wasn't easy at all. And so why go back?
Yeah, yeah.
Totally agree. And I would say, what are some of the feelings? Like, what does it look like? The endings? What does the in between space look like? And I can share a little bit about my in between spaces, or, yeah, in between spaces where things have ended, but the new hasn't begun yet. And so you're waiting and you're waiting, and sometimes you're waiting longer and you continue to wait. It feels like forever. And sometimes it's hard for people that are go, 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 need action, have to go. For me, there are moments where it feels like paralysis, and
Mm.
more so because I'm not listening to my guides and the guidance that has come through, or I have not listened to the guidance to let go of a relationship, of things, situations when I was told to do so. And then it was like velcroed off. It was like broken off. It was torn apart. And that feels harsh. And so when you're sitting in that, kind of sitting, the image that's coming to me right now is like a lion or tigress, like rubbing their paw. Like if there's injury, they kind of you lick the wounds. So you're just sitting there and licking your wounds and you're trying to analyze, you're trying to break it down. But for me, as an outsider, if you're looking inward towards me, I'm on my couch laying around. Maybe the TV is on, or maybe I'm on my phone watching endless. Something is going on, a show or anything. But what I've noticed is that internally, I'm processing.
Mm.
Internally, my soul is processing. And all of a sudden, one day I will spring up and like, okay, it's done. This is what happened. Just that realization or knowing that that's what happened. It could get into what looks like depressive mode, where all you're doing is can just get out of bed, maybe shower that day, maybe cook, eat, and go back to bed. But there's a lot of integration that goes on, a lot of processing that happens within that takes time. It could take a day or two, it could take a week or month, sometimes a year or more. It doesn't mean that you stop living. It doesn't mean that you're not doing other things, not going out. For example, just the last 3 years, not only was I going through medical issues, but I think my body had enough. I think my soul had had enough of healing. I just wanted to stop everything. But it also happened after a relationship ended. And it was a very dear relationship. And so the whole process of, well, I'm doing all this healing work, and yet people were hurt, or there were hurt feelings, I should say. Misunderstanding was the main thing, miscommunication. So why do I need to? My whole thinking was that I'm incurring all these karma out there. It's like I want my be out of this cycle of birth and death, and I don't want to incur any more karma. So what is this? Why am I still hurting, or still you kind of take it upon yourself as it's your fault? Where did you go wrong? Why are you doing this to other people? And you get into that whole self-doubt, self-judgment, self-criticism, to realize that processing needed to be done from both end. There was miscommunication from both end. There was not enough trust, not enough belief. And so, but that's how, for me, it looks like that time to just be low and lie low and just show up for myself and maybe for just the near and dear ones. That's all I could hold. I cannot hold anymore. I cannot hold any more conversations. I cannot hold any more emotions. I cannot help anymore. And not that I didn't work. I think I did more of my physical therapy work in those times than I did more of healing work.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, yes, I do internal work with the physical therapy, but it felt more of that external work. I don't know, do you understand? Like,
Mm-hmm.
does it make sense in that terms? And it's just that I was able to only hold space for those things, those little things. There was a time when I felt that now it's getting into the zone of that the scale is tipping into depression almost, because I was first isolating myself and then to realize that I'm being isolated, and then there is no one around me to have conversation, more so in person, and to realize that this is going into depression. It can go there. So as soon as you catch that and realize that, then I started calling, making that intentional reaching out, or even looking for job here and there, physical therapy jobs, just working for a little bit for so that I could go out, so that I would force myself to go out and put myself back into the world. So that's how some of it looks like for me. How does it feel to you? What does it look when you are processing some of these in between space?
In between spaces always look different in that I find that I need different things. I was doing nothing 2 years ago, and this was the big in between for me. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD. Up until that moment, it had been a different diagnosis, but it was masked. It was not masking, but no one was looking deeper into the diagnosis, so it was misdiagnosed. And what this did for me was allow me to re-experience my life with the scope of I'm neurodivergent. The way I experience life on its own is different. So I was able to look into the pockets of deep trauma and see them as the adult grown version of me walking a spiritual path and understand more in depth. But it did look like I was in a cave, separated from the world, doing physically very little. I could only handle going into work at that time and going back home in the afternoon and disappearing. I disappeared from everyone around me. I disappeared from my family, any friends I would have had. I very selective circle, and I couldn't fully function always within that circle. And what I've learned throughout the process of dismantling the traumas I've experienced and getting to know who Sheila is without the stories and the narratives and all of these things that we take on along the way is letting go requires that I completely let go of even my own self. I go into a space in my head where it's just, let's go back to breathing. All I can do today is breathe. So that's all I'm doing today. The in between space is never comfortable. It demands that you see it and acknowledge it for what a big crumbling that has happened, what a big fracture, what a big disruption to everyday life. And let's see what's coming. Who am I going to be? So for me, it always had me question, especially 2 years ago, who am I? Who am I really? Looking through the lens of now, I understand the mechanisms of my neurodiversity, and it allowed me to offer self-compassion as I looked back through the movie of who I had been and what I had experienced. I wouldn't have been able to process from zero because I did take a long time to revisit each age at which I had experienced deep trauma, deep grief and loss, separation from myself and my body. I took time to sit with each and every juncture of that in my life with the purpose of bringing myself back to wholeness, of creating space for this Sheila to hold those versions, younger versions of me. And it was very much from the outside looking in, like you're looking at someone not doing anything. But I was doing deep internal movement and processing. And what people don't stop to think a lot about is that when you've experienced all of these things or some version of them, your body goes into fight or flight mode. And you're always ready for the threat. You're always waiting for that shoe to drop. You're always expecting something to go wrong. And the body tenses up and stores all of these things within it. So when we are in those in between spaces, what often happens is we are tapped out, unable to move and process the world at the same rate of any other same age person in any same circumstance, because internally we're catching up with everything we stored and releasing it through rest And this is why the nervous system is such an important aspect of helping you heal and walk a spiritual journey, because you require the body to call back not only the fragmented parts of yourself, but the will in yourself to
Yeah.
continue forward. Because why would you want to continue forward if this is how life is going? Right? So the in between kind of offers you that hermit mode, and in it, you develop the ability to go back and regulate yourself, learn how to breathe, lean on the tools. The tools helped me so much when I was in those in between periods of my life, to discern, to go back to have a sort of a map, you know? So, absolutely, it looks like paralysis. It feels like paralysis. It feels like the inability to make even the decision of what am I eating today? Because even that is too much. But it's a temporary space when you learn that all spaces of a life are temporary, even the joyful, the loving, the creative ones. You learn to navigate life way easier, you know? It's like, okay, I know I'm not stuck here forever. I am being pulled back for a moment in time to explore what feels like it doesn't belong, and to realign to what feels like it's coming for me, you know? And yeah, it can feel like the world is falling on you. People will comment. I experience the same thing. Like, people will make comments and judge the way you are handling your life, but it offers you such a great gift of discernment to realize I'm in the void. I am in an in between space. I am releasing what I have gathered and stored within the body. This is why I am needing more rest, you know? It's super interesting, like
Yeah.
the way our spirit and our body kind of like dance together and help you realign. And it doesn't have a set time. It can be a month, a year, 2 years. It doesn't matter. The idea is that you don't feel as though that is it for you.
When you're in it, it feels like that is it. It's like, what's the point of, and it's not so much of, and I kept telling people, it's not so much of suicidal thoughts or anything. It's just the matter of like, if life is going to be like this, why live it, right? Why experience any of it? I don't want to go out and interact. I don't want to, so that you can be betrayed, so that you can be abandoned, right? Or so that you could be misunderstood. What's the point of talking to anyone? So, those are some of the things. And also, the judgment part, like people think that, yeah, you're lazy. You should be doing things around the house. You should be, going out and getting a job, the 9 to 5 job, because that's the society's norm. You cannot have a job that is flexible. It's like today I'm free, tomorrow I have 2 clients. But no, why don't you have 2 clients today? Why are you free today? Right? So things like that. It's sitting and but being okay with yourself. I think my another processing was to be in a space where you know that when you see the hatred towards you, but that much, be in that in between space where you are like you've accepted that that's how the other person feels, but that's not who you are. And you bring in more than enough love for yourself. You love yourself. Like you said, going back to each phases or places of your childhood and giving whatever that you at that age needed and bring her back to now in that wholeness. So it's still all that is being processed while I'm lazing around. And it takes me a while as a person, me, I've always say I know that it takes me time and I don't want to rush. I don't want to rush through it. I will allow as much time as it's needed for me to process, to integrate before I move on.
Yeah. And that's the important part,
Yeah.
integration, because you need to figure out, okay, out of this thing that happened, what is mine to keep going forward and what is mine to let go of,
Yeah.
right? What is mine not to continue to hold? And one of the gifts of having gone through these processes and learn so hand in hand with my guides is that they will tell me,
Yeah.
now it's time to take what is yours. Who are you? Redefine yourself. constantly. What is yours? What is the story you're telling yourself, about your circumstances, and the people around you? Because it is not enough to just see it. It's not enough to just say, oh, yeah, I'm aware of that. No, we have to take accountability of what we continue to carry in our backpack. Because at what point is it enough? I refuse to entertain the notion that validation in any way, shape, or form is external. I relinquish that. Not happening. Life after the experience of near death has taught me that I take accountability for my actions. That if I am hurt, I hurt people. That if I show up inauthentically, I will receive inauthenticity. That I cannot be anything other than what I tell myself about myself. So, yes, the process is not easy, but is the only process that is worth it because of what you said. What is the point of living a life in which this continues to happen? I am done. And that decision of playing into that game of, oh, well, the culture says this, well, society says this, where, you know what? I say enough.
Yeah.
Done. I no longer wish to give up my life, my years of living to an external source. Had I not gone through the process of letting Joshua into my heart, I am here. What do I need to do? And that was really hard work because the first thing he said to me is, you need to forgive. You need to forgive your mom. You need to forgive the men who sexually assaulted you. That work did not just happen. It was years, months. But guess what? I have my life back. I live for me. I know what I like, who I am, what I require to feel better. I am not always obedient or listening to the guidance I receive. I am still human and will always be human up until the day I no longer wear this suit. But the life I had before 2020 and the life I've gained after don't even come close. There is life behind my eyes again. If I fall and bleed, I am grateful for that because I'm feeling. I was at a point in my life where I no longer felt. I was numb, disconnected, completely adrift. Again, we go to that castaway scene.
Yeah.
You know, my whole life has been a gift for me. I am now grateful I can see it that way. Not many people may understand it. Not many people will be able to see it that way. I don't need them to. I'm okay with that. I have understood that when I need space, I take it to go inward. What am I doing that needs to be revisited? What can I do to move forward? And that little girl who went church to church looking for God, she has God now 24/7 because my life does not move without him. And I am constantly asked to stay in the understanding that other people are experiencing their own type of trauma and cycle and push to get through and to see themselves for who they really are, to take their life back, to move from that wisdom that lives within, you know? So I cannot, for the life of me, ask anyone to be anything they cannot be for themselves. So I have chosen to let whoever do what they must do for themselves. That is all theirs. They can keep it, they can hold it, they can nurture it, but I am not entertaining it. If it doesn't go with me, I no longer need to entertain that. And I wish people will remember that that's the goal, to reintegrate the fractalized versions of who you've been and you've walked your life through, welcome them back home and remember the truth of who you are. Your divine self, your innate connection to spirit, your ability to at any moment say, I've had enough of handing over my own life to other people.
How do you know the difference between processing and being stuck? That between sacred stillness versus avoidance.
Well, when I'm avoiding, my circumstances will reflect that. Nothing feels like it's moving. It doesn't matter how hard I'm working.
Yeah.
nothing's moving, right? Avoidance feels like stuck. It feels like I am in a hamster wheel that goes nowhere. Sacred stillness feels more like calm in the body, calm. It's a knowing that even though you cannot see where you're headed, there is a pathway running under you. There is a greater force sustaining you, holding you through. When I am in sacred stillness and that in between and everything's still going along, it feels peaceful. No matter how chaotic it is, no matter what it is I'm going through, I know the calmness within. I don't question it. I feel it. It's just, for me, it's very palpable. When I am in that void and I'm just like, right? Avoiding things, my mind goes crazy. It
Mm.
goes from thought to thought to thought and thoughts in circles, like a hamster wheel, over and over again. I should do this. I should do that. Maybe I should do this. Maybe if I do that, right? I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I wouldn't have done that. So, very distinctly experienced circumstances, situations.
Yeah, I agree that, when I describe that in between space, I say it's dark, but it's not dark. It's really not. And it's quiet and peaceful. But yes, I'm in that paralysis and depressive mood, or feels like it. It seems like it, but it's very quiet and peaceful. So I
Yeah.
I I understand what you're saying.
I think that's the best place to start if you're in a space of the in between and haven't yet reached, like, is there a light at the end of this tunnel
Yeah.
moment, is in the acceptance that you're just in an in between. And yes, it can feel very lonely and dark and like you will never move, like molasses. This is when you lean onto tools and modalities. This is when you reach out for support, right? To re anchor back. I, in these spaces, lean onto someone that you can and reach out or join a group, a meditation group, something that gives you the constancy that something's moving.
Mm.
Because in being in a group with a group of people, you say, okay, every Tuesday I go and sit for meditation.
Yeah.
That on its own will be helpful. You might not feel like writing all the affirmations and talking about gratitude and all of that stuff, but ever so slowly, that hamster wheel will become a true runway and you
Mm.
will be moving forward. But if you're finding it not as difficult to stay in the silence, I would say stay in that silence because at the end of the day, you know what you need and you have the wisdom within yourself to walk yourself through the process. And you're the only one who can determine whether or not you need to reach out externally, right? Or continue the process internally, or either or. It doesn't matter. The way you navigate the in between from the what has been into what will be belongs to you. Some people love the gym, some people like to sweat it out, right? Lean onto what you can, but explore it and understand that it is not a forever space that you delve in,
Yeah.
but just a temporary place. And you do come out the other side. It may not be pretty, it may not feel good, but eventually you do come out of the other side. So I go back to thinking of that big question at the beginning, would you change anything? Absolutely not. I would go
Yeah.
through every grief because that sense of belonging that little girl needed, I found it. And I only found it now. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my life as it stands, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for my life coming up. And this is not about cutting corners, because the more you cut corners, the more you'll find yourself hitting that wall over and over again.
Again, the word bypass comes to mind. It's like when you bypass all these process and stay in just that high vibe and positive zone, whatever that is, it is just not the reality. It's not real, and you have to go through these processes to come out to the other side. to the new beginnings.
Yes. And boy, has there been many. My practice was born. My son has been able to do things I never thought possible. My ability to say no easily and plainly without giving explanations is so great. I can advocate for myself. I can own up to the things that I do because,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just so much. I have experience in life with the most authentic, transparent, healing love I've ever had. After all those failed relationships, after all those moments of everything falling apart, I have my partner, who I can 100% say he's my best friend. I can be exactly who I am in front of him without embarrassment, without feeling like there's a background narration happening. We have a very peaceful, God centered, spirit led life. My children are both thriving, and I no longer carry anything that doesn't belong to me.
That is so beautiful. And that's the thing. It's like not taking responsibility that does not belong to you. That is the most weight that you carry upon yourself. I really think so. Wow. And so I think that brings us to the thing of what do you get back? Like by doing all this, being in that ending and being in that in between space, and what is in the new beginning? What do you get back? And like you said, you live the best life, authentic life. Personally, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. The quantum healing part, the Akashic record part, reading. I wouldn't be, I loved what I did as a physical therapist. There's no reason for me to move and do what I'm doing. I'm just following the guidance and listening to my guides and moving forward. And so we feel the personally, I feel exactly how you feel in many ways. I won't say that I'm 100% there, but I know what it feels to be in that full space of just that unconditional love. There is no judgment, there is no criticism, and every moment feels like a miracle and a magic happening around you. And the synchronicity, when you are in that space, things just happen. You ask and it's given and it's shown to you right away. And so that is just, the more you trust and follow the guidance, the more they give you to be grateful for. And it's a absolutely blessed life. And I still won't say it's all flowers and roses and fragrances. It's still hard work because you continue to heal, you continue to grow, you continue to have these pitfalls, and you're still learning as you're growing and going into depth of processing and healing and the work that you have to do. It's never ending. You're always a work in progress. One of the question I have is, what did the ending teach you that nothing else could have? Like any kind of ending.
To find myself over and over, to understand that I'm not static and that I'm always evolving and learning and shifting and understanding perspectives and teachings, that it's okay to change my mind as I move forward in growth and expansion of vision. All endings have taught me about myself, my capacity to hold light or darkness or the in between, my capacity to question and take accountability for my own actions. My voice is mine. Finally, after my whole life of not having one, years of finding it and not being able to use it due to fear. And now we're sitting at a podcast. The endings are just as precious as the beginnings. They're, in fact, the clue that lets you know something bigger, new is coming.
What is growing in your life right now that you didn't plant, that showed up because you let something else go?
That's a deep question. There's so much growing in my life that I didn't plant, that is only flourishing because of listening.
I
I
think this
am.
podcast.
Yeah, this podcast, I am constantly trying to figure out what brings me joy and move from that, there's just so much.
Yeah.
And I would say every single thing that has happened, I've not planned it,
Yeah.
right? It has really come from the process itself because that's what happens. It
Yeah.
continues to show up. And the more you open your arms wide open, and realize this is for me. For me, I get to dream again. I get to own myself. I get to experience who I was meant to be all this time, right? And isn't it wonderful we get to do that and know that while we're still alive?
Yeah.
What do you have growing inside you in your life right now that you didn't plant?
Well, I would say beginning of the year, yes, I wanted to do a podcast, but not something, not this, right? I wanted to do a podcast, but I didn't imagine how much work it would take to put it together. But it was more of when I used to do, I guess in 2020, I did a lot of those Zoom, Facebook Live, where I invited each one of my healer friends to talk about what they do, what they bring to table, how they help. And I just thought it would be as simple as that. And I was just going to put it out there. So I had never imagined like doing something with you in this grand scale. And I'm really grateful that, you do all the other inside work for us. And also another, just from doing this, another podcast sprouted where I am going deeper into Bhagavad Gita and looking at each chapter and how that knowledge can be used in right now from each chapter. And that has really expanded my viewpoint. And yeah, that's for right now. That's what's growing within me. And I'm excited about that. And this, of course. So just coming out of last 3 years, I think, just showing up and using my voice. And just before our episode on surrender, you experienced how I froze in terms of not responding, going MIA, because I'm like freaking out. What am I doing? Why am I even speaking? Like, I sometimes I don't like to listen to myself, watch myself talk, and just not that I feel I'm not good enough or not worth it or what I have to say is not of value. But it was just that moment of fear of being heard and being seen.
Mm,
Right. And so constantly we're working on something. So I had to
yeah.
process so much. Like we talked about, we are living each and every episodes as we, just talk about, think about it even before we come on any episodes, and we are like experiencing those things as we are thinking about it, as we are just navigating through those topics. So it's been fun. We're learning about each other, how to navigate through each other, communicate. And I appreciate you staying with me. I know if we were closer, you would come and like knock on my head.
Yes, most likely I would. It has been a process,
Yeah.
right? And it has been like a whole different experience of our friendship. But it is what has been teaching us to dig deeper
Yeah.
into memories and patterns and our journeys and what we have experienced and how we have navigated those spaces with the goal to bring a light into
Mhm.
those topics because this is not something that goes away. Every time we finish talking, we say, this could have been a longer episode. We
Yeah.
only touched the surface of that.
Yeah.
I wish we would have said blank, right? But that's what's beautiful about it. It's an entryway into, oh, so this happens. And then
Yeah.
let's continue to explore that. Let's continue to expand on that. And hopefully you find yourself getting better at navigating each of those spaces that we skim over every other week because it's powerful. And most people don't go there. Most people only show you the polished, edited version. We wanted to share the raw aspects of that and to say, it happened to me and I came out the other end. It's not the end. It's always a new beginning over and over again. It was so good to see you today, Hemali.
Yes, it was good to see you and talk
Yeah.
about
Thanks
this.
everyone for listening and for being here with us. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
If there's one thing to sit with from today, every ending has another side. The relationship ending that made room for true love to come in. The job you lost, making room for the calling you couldn't hear while you were busy. The identity that collapsed in silence, giving way for the authentic self that was always underneath. What grows in the space that loss carves out is you, the real you. So you see, this was never about endings. It was always about the next beginning. Thank you for being here with us. If this episode moves something within you, please share with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe wherever you're listening and leave a review. It helps more people find this space. Find us on all your favorite social media platforms. And remember, you already are what you're looking for. Trust your insight, act with purpose, and stay in your knowing.